The Galactic Academy's shock. The vast auditorium of the Galactic Peace Academy buzzed with anticipation. Beings from 100 different worlds shuffled, slithered, or hovered in their seats, a kaleidoscope of alien life forms united by a common goal: to learn the art of peacekeeping from the galaxy's most enigmatic species, humans. At the podium stood Admiral Zara Chen, her weathered face a roadmap of scars earned across a dozen star systems. Her eyes, sharp as a laser sight, scanned the room. The chittering conversations died down as she cleared her throat, the sound reverberating through the hall with an air of authority that transcended species barriers. "Welcome, cadets, to Advanced Combat Training 101. She began, her voice carrying the hint of amusement. "I'm sure you've all heard rumors about this course. Let me be the first to tell you, they're all true." A ripple of unease passed through the audience. Sorblax, a gelatinous being from the methane swamps of Glutopia, wobbled nervously. His neighbor, a chitinous Archean named Click-Clack, clicked her mandibles in what might have been excitement or terror. For millennia, Chen continued, the galaxy viewed Earth as a death world, a planet so harsh that it was a miracle any sentient life evolved there at all. You've probably wondered how we not only survived but thrived to become the peacekeepers of the galaxy. She paused, a mischievous glint in her eye. Well, you're about to find out. Our first lesson begins in 5 minutes, on the live fire range. The auditorium erupted into chaos. Tentacles flailed, antennae twitched, and more than a few beings emitted distress pheromones potent enough to make the humans in the room wince. "Live fire," squeaked Gloop, a Mercurian cloud dweller. But that's not safe." Chen's laugh was like steel on granite. "Safe? Of course it's not safe. That's the point." As the cadets filed out, a mix of terror and fascination on their alien faces, Shen turned to her assistant, a lanky human named Taurus. "Bet you 10 credits the Glutopian faints before we even start." Taurus snorted. "No bet, Admiral. Though I got my eye on that Archean. She looks like she might have what it takes." The live fire range was a sprawling complex that looked like it had been designed by a madman with an unlimited budget. Plasma barriers hummed, holographic threats flickered in and out of existence, and the air crackled with the promise of imminent danger. Chen stood before the assembled cadets, most of whom were eyeing the course as if it might suddenly come alive and devour them. Which, given some of the rumors about human training methods, wasn't entirely outside the realm of possibility. "This, my dear cadets, is where theory meets practice," Chen announced. "You've all studied conflict resolution, diplomatic protocols, and the finer points of intergalactic law. But sometimes peace must be kept at the point of a gun. And to do that effectively, you need to understand what it means to be under fire." She gestured to a rack of weapons that would have made most military museums weep with envy. "These are loaded with low-yield plasma rounds. They won't kill you, but they'll hurt like hell and leave a mark you won't soon forget. Your task is simple: navigate the course, neutralize the threats, and reach the other side." A forest of appendages shot up, accompanied by a cacophony of questions, protests, and what sounded suspiciously like prayers. Chen held up a hand, silencing the crowd. "I know what you're thinking. This is insane. Humans are barbarians. I should have listened to my spawning pod and become a deep space alga farmer." Her grin was fierce. "But let me tell you something. This is how we forge peacekeepers. In the crucible of controlled chaos, facing fear head-on, you'll discover strengths you never knew you had." She pointed to a trembling Swordlax. "You, gelatinous one, you're up first." Swordlax's entire body rippled in what might have been a full-body gulp. "Me? But I don't even have bones." "Exactly," Chen replied. "Which means you've got nothing to break. Now get in there and show us what you're made of. Besides slime, that is." As Swordlax reluctantly oozed towards the starting line, Chen's voice softened slightly. "Remember, cadets, the goal isn't to be fearless. It's to act despite your fear. That's what being a peacekeeper is all about. The first plasma bolt sizzled past Xorblax, leaving a scorch mark on the ground. The Glutopian's panicked shriek was cut short as survival instincts kicked in. To everyone's surprise, perhaps most of all to Xorblax himself, he began to flow through the course with unexpected grace, his amorphous body adapting to each new challenge. Chen nodded approvingly. See that? That's adaptation under pressure. That's what we're here to learn. As alien after alien took on the course, each discovering hidden reserves of courage and creativity, the atmosphere in the range began to shift. Fear gave way to determination, skepticism to grudging respect. Click-clack, the Arxian scuttled through the course with surprising agility, her exoskeleton deflecting glancing shots. Gloop, the Mercurian, used his gaseous form to confuse targeting systems. Even the most unlikely candidates found ways to succeed, driven by a combination of terror and newfound determination. By the time the last cadet stumbled across the finish line, singed but triumphant, a new understanding had dawned. This wasn't just about combat training. It was about pushing limits, adapting to impossible situations, and finding strength in adversity. Chen surveyed the exhausted, exhilarated cadets with pride. Congratulations, you've just taken your first step into a larger universe, a universe where peace isn't just an ideal, it's something you fight for, something you bleed for. She paused, letting her words sink in. Welcome to the real Galactic Peace Academy. Your training begins now. As the cadets dispersed, buzzing with excitement and nursing their various injuries, Chen turned to Torres. Well, what do you think? Do we have a decent crop this year? Torres nodded, a slow smile spreading across his face. Oh yes, Admiral. I think we might have just witnessed the birth of the next generation of galactic peacekeepers. Chen's laugh was softer this time, tinged with hope. Good, because the galaxy needs them now more than ever. As the sun set over the academy, casting long shadows across the scared training ground, the air hummed with possibility. In classrooms and dormitories, in mess halls and meditation chambers, 100 alien voices recounted the day's events. Fear and excitement mingled in their tales, but underneath it all ran a current of newfound respect for their human instructors, for each other, and for the challenges that lay ahead. The Galactic Peace Academy had always been more than just a school. Today, it had become a forge, a place where the raw material of 100 worlds would be shaped into something greater. The peacekeepers of tomorrow were taking their first steps, guided by the unlikely wisdom of humanity. And somewhere in the vastness of space, the galaxies watched and waited, unaware that a new force for peace was being born, one plasma bolt at a time. Human ingenuity unleashed. The morning after the live-fire exercise dawned with a mix of anticipation and trepidation among the alien cadets. As they filed into the lecture hall, their bodies still aching from the previous day's ordeal, whispers and theories buzzed through the air like static electricity. Admiral Chen stood at the front, her posture relaxed, but her eyes alert, scanning the room. Beside her was a contraption that looked like it had been cobbled together from spare parts and pure imagination, a hallmark of human engineering. Good morning, cadets. Chen's voice cut through the chatter. I hope you're all feeling properly warmed up after yesterday's little jog. A chorus of groans and alien equivalents of laughter rippled through the room. Even Xorblax, who had surprised everyone with his fluid navigation of the course, wobbled in what might have been a chuckle. Today, Chen continued, her hand resting on the strange device, we're going to talk about one of humanity's greatest strengths, our ability to improvise, adapt, and overcome. She gestured to the machine. This, cadets, is what we call a MacGyver device. Named after a legendary human problem solver, it represents our knack for turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. Click-clack raised a chidness limb. Excuse me, Admiral, but what exactly does it do? Chen's grin was downright mischievous. Excellent question. To be honest, We're not entirely sure. That's part of the beauty of it. This device was built from random parts we found in a storage closet. It might be a communicator, a weapon, or a very elaborate coffee maker. The point is, it represents possibility. The confusion on the alien faces was palpable. Gloop, the Mercurian, condensed slightly in what might have been a frown. I don't understand. How can you use something if you don't know what it does? Ah, but that's where human ingenuity comes in, Chen replied. We don't always need to know exactly what something does. We just need to know what we want it to do, and then figure out how to make it happen. She picked up the device, which emitted a soft hum and a faint blue glow. In the field, you won't always have the perfect tool for the job. Sometimes, you'll have to make do with what's available. That's where creativity becomes your greatest asset. Chen set the device down and paced in front of the class. Humans evolved on a planet that was constantly trying to kill us. We didn't have natural armor, or claws, or the ability to breathe underwater. What we had was this. She tapped her temple, and the ability to look at the world around us and see not just what is, but what could be. She pointed to a holographic display that flickered to life, showing images of human history. We turned sticks and stones into tools. We harnessed fire. We looked at the birds in the sky and dreamed of flight. And when we finally reached for the stars, we didn't let the vastness of space deter us. We adapted, we innovated, and we thrived. The images shifted, showing humans in various alien environments. Underwater cities on gas giants, floating habitats in corrosive atmospheres, underground colonies on frozen worlds. This adaptability, this drive to overcome obstacles, is what we want to instill in all of you, Chen said, her voice filled with passion. Because out there, in the vast expanse of the galaxy, you'll face challenges you can't even imagine. And when you do, you'll need to channel your inner human, to look at the impossible and say, "Challenge accepted." She clapped her hands, the sound jolting several cadets out of their reverie. Now for today's exercise. You're going to break into teams. Each team will receive a box of random items, circuitry, mechanical parts, even some organic components. Your task is to create something useful. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it serves a purpose. The cadets exchanged glances, a mix of excitement and uncertainty rippling through the room. Remember, Chen added, there are no wrong answers here. The only failure is in not trying. Now, let's see what that magnificent alien ingenuity of yours can come up with when you start thinking like humans. As the cadets broke into groups, the room buzzed with activity. Tentacles waved, mandibles clicked, and ideas flowed as freely as the methane on Glutopia. Chen watched with satisfaction as unlikely alliances formed. A silicon-based life form, working alongside a being of pure energy, their differences forgotten in the face of the challenge. Zorblax and Click-Clack found themselves partnered with Gloop, forming a trio that looked more like the setup to an intergalactic joke than a problem-solving team. Yet, as they pored over their box of parts, something remarkable began to happen. What if we combined your ability to change shape with Click-Clack's exoskeleton? Gloop suggested, his gaseous form rippling with excitement. Zorblax extended a pseudopod, wrapping it around a piece of circuitry. And we could use these to amplify my natural bioelectric field. Click-Clack's antennae twitched in what might have been the Arxian equivalent of a light bulb moment. I see. We could create a device that adapts its form and function to the user, a universal tool. As the hours ticked by, the lecture hall transformed into a workshop of wonders. Devices that defied easy categorization took shape under the industrious appendages of the alien cadets. There were translators that conveyed emotions as well as words, shields that absorbed energy and redirected it, and in one corner, something that looked suspiciously like it might bend the fabric of space-time. Chen made a mental note to keep an eye on that one. Throughout it all, the Admiral moved from group to group, offering encouragement and the occasional nudge in the right direction. She watched with pride as the alien cadets began to embrace the human way of thinking. seeing problems not as obstacles, but as opportunities for innovation. As the exercise drew to a close, Chen called for attention. "All right, cadets, let's see what you've come up with." One by one, the teams presented their creations. There were moments of brilliance, moments of hilarity, and more than a few moments where even Chen wasn't entirely sure what she was looking at. But through it all, there was an undeniable sense of accomplishment. The Floorblacks, Click-Clack, and Gloop proudly displayed their universal tool, which shifted and changed as each of them handled it, adapting to their unique physiologies. "Impressive," Chen nodded. "You've taken your individual strengths and combined them into something greater than the sum of its parts. That's not just good engineering, it's good peacekeeping." As the presentations concluded, Chen addressed the class one final time. "Today, you've done more than build devices. You've built bridges between different species, different ways of thinking. You've shown that with creativity and cooperation, there's no problem too big to solve." She gestured to the array of inventions spread out before her. "This is what it means to think like a human, to see possibility where others see only problems, to find common ground with those who seem utterly alien, and to never, ever give up in the face of a challenge." The cadets beamed with pride, their earlier trepidation replaced by a newfound confidence. Even those whose devices had spectacularly failed, the space-time bender had created a small, short-lived black hole, felt a sense of accomplishment. They had tried, they had learned, and they had grown. As the class dispersed, chattering excitedly about their creations and already planning improvements, Chen turned to Torres. "Well," she said, a note of satisfaction in her voice, "I think they're starting to get it." Torres nodded, eyeing the various contraptions with a mix of admiration and mild concern. "They certainly are, Admiral. Though I do have one question." "Yes, that device you showed them at the beginning, the MacGyver device. What does it actually do?" Chen's laugh echoed through the hall. "Honestly, Torres, I have no idea, but watching them try to figure it out was half the fun." As the sun set on another day at the Galactic Peace Academy, the seeds of human ingenuity had been firmly planted in alien soil. The galaxy, it seemed, was in for some interesting times ahead. Alien adaptation and revelation. The third day of training dawned on the Galactic Peace Academy, bringing with it a palpable sense of anticipation. The alien cadets, still buzzing from their foray into human-style innovation, gathered in the central courtyard. The air was thick with a mixture of excitement and nervous energy, along with the occasional whiff of alien pheromones. Admiral Chen stood before them, her stance relaxed, but her eyes gleaming with the intensity of a supernova. Beside her was a holographic display, currently dark but humming with potential. "Good morning, cadets," Chen's voice carried across the courtyard. "I hope you've all had a chance to rest and reflect on our previous lessons. Today, we're going to tackle something that's at the very core of human survival: adaptation." The holographic display flickered to life, showing a series of rapidly changing environments, from scorching deserts to frozen tundras, from the depths of the ocean to the vacuum of space. "Humanity," Chen continued, her voice taking on a note of pride, "has survived and thrived in every environment you see here. Not because we were naturally suited to them, but because we learned to adapt." Floorblacks raised a gelatinous pseudopod. "But Admiral, isn't adaptation a biological process? How can you adapt so quickly?" Chen's smile was knowing. "Excellent question, Cadet Swordlax. For most species, adaptation is indeed a slow, generational process. But humans? We cheat." A ripple of confusion passed through the alien cadets. Click-Clack's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of deep thought in Arxins. "Cheat? How does one cheat evolution?" With this, Chen tapped her temple. "Our minds, our creativity, our stubborn refusal to accept limitations. When faced with an environment we can't survive in, we don't wait for our bodies to evolve. We change the environment, or we create tools that allow us to exist within it. The holographic display shifted, showing humans in various protective suits and vehicles, exploring harsh alien worlds. But today, Chen continued, her voice taking on a challenging tone. We're going to flip the script. You're going to show us how you adapt. Not over millennia, but right here, right now. With a dramatic flourish, Chen activated a device on her wrist. Suddenly, the courtyard transformed. The comfortable, neutral environment shimmered and warped, replaced by a harsh, rocky landscape. The air became thin and cold. Gravity increased slightly, and in the distance, 2 suns blazed in an alien sky. "Welcome," Chen announced, her voice slightly distorted through the breathing apparatus she had somehow donned in the blink of an eye, "to Kepler 16 bits, or at least our best simulation of it." The alien cadets reacted with a mixture of shock and awe. Some, like Gloop, found their varied form challenged by the new environment. The Mercurian's gaseous body contracted rapidly in the increased gravity and thin atmosphere. "Your challenge," Chen continued, seemingly unaffected by the harsh conditions, "is simple. Survive. Thrive. Show us how your species would adapt to this world. You have access to the same resources and technology that were available to humanity when we first started exploring beyond our solar system. Work together, innovate, and remember, there are no failures here, only learning experiences." With that, Chen stepped back, leaving the cadets to face the simulated alien world. For a moment, chaos reigned. Sorblax found himself struggling to maintain his form in the increased gravity. Click-Clack's exoskeleton, evolved for a world with much lower atmospheric pressure, creaked ominously. Gloop was little more than a puddle, desperately trying to maintain cohesion. But then, something remarkable happened. The panic subsided, replaced by determination. The lessons of the past 2 days began to take hold. Click-Clack, her scientist's mind racing, approached Sorblax. "Your ability to change shape," she clicked excitedly. "Could you form a protective barrier around some of us?" Sorblax, already stretching himself thin, quite literally, to adapt to the gravity, paused. I think so, but I'd need something to reinforce my structure." Gloop, still struggling to maintain form, rippled with an idea. What if you encased some of my gaseous form within your membrane? I could provide internal pressure to help you maintain shape." As this unlikely alliance took shape, other groups formed across the simulated landscape. A group of photosynthetic beings, struggling in the harsh light of the binary stars, worked together to create a living shield, their bodies intertwining to filter and share the intense radiation. A team of silicon-based life forms, finding themselves oddly comfortable in the rocky terrain, began reshaping the landscape itself, carving out shelters for their less adapted classmates. Admiral Chen watched it all unfold with a mixture of pride and fascination. This, she realized, was the true power of diversity. Each species, facing a challenge that would have overwhelmed them individually, was finding strength in cooperation and shared innovation. Hours passed in the harsh, simulated environment. What had started as a scramble for survival had evolved into a complex, interconnected ecosystem of alien beings and human-inspired technology. Sorblax, Click-Clack, and Gloop had created a remarkable symbiotic unit. Sorblax's malleable form, reinforced by Gloop's gaseous pressure and structured by Click-Clack's exoskeleton-inspired designs, had become a mobile habitat capable of sustaining multiple life forms in the harsh environment. The photosynthetic beings had not only created a living shield, but had also found a way to convert the binary star's intense radiation into a power source, providing energy for the entire group. The silicon-based life forms had transformed a section of the rocky landscape into a complex network of interconnected habitats, each tailored to the needs of different species. As the simulation entered its final hour, Chen called for the cadets' attention. Despite the harsh conditions, there was a new energy in the air, a sense of accomplishment, and unity that transcended species barriers. Cadets, Chen's voice rang out, filled with unmistakable pride. What you've accomplished here today is nothing short of miraculous. You've taken an environment that should have been lethal to most of you, and not only survived but thrived. She gestured to the transformed landscape around them. This is adaptation. This is innovation. This is what it means to be a peacekeeper in a galaxy full of challenges. You've shown that diversity isn't just about tolerating differences. It's about finding strength in them. With another touch to her wrist device, the harsh landscape shimmered and faded, returning them to the familiar courtyard of the academy. There was a moment of disorientation as the cadets readjusted to their normal environment. Remember this feeling, Chen continued, her voice softer now, but no less intense. Remember how it felt to face the impossible and overcome it. Because out there, in the vast expanse of the galaxy, you'll face challenges just as daunting. And when you do, I want you to remember this day. Remember how you adapted, how you innovated, how you came together. She looked at each of the cadets in turn, her gaze filled with a mixture of pride and challenge. This is what humanity has to teach you, not just how to survive, but how to face the unknown with courage and creativity, how to see challenges as opportunities, how to find common ground with those who seem utterly alien. As the cadets dispersed, there was a new spring in their step, or slither, or hover. They chattered excitedly, comparing notes on their experiences, and already discussing how they could apply these lessons to real-world peacekeeping scenarios. Chen turned to Torres, who had been monitoring the simulation from a control room. Well, what do you think? Are they starting to understand? Torres nodded, a look of wonder on his face. I think they're doing more than understanding, Admiral. They're embracing it. Did you see that symbiotic habitat Swordblacks and his team created? I'm not sure even we could have come up with that. Chen's laugh was full of genuine joy. That's the point, Torres. We're not here to teach them to be human. We're here to teach them to find their own kind of brilliant. And I'd say they're well on their way. As the sun set on the third day of training, the Galactic Peace Academy hummed with a new energy. The alien cadets, once skeptical of human methods, were beginning to see the galaxy through new eyes. They were learning to adapt, to innovate, to overcome. And in doing so, they were becoming something greater than any single species could have imagined. The next generation of galactic peacekeepers was taking shape, forged in the crucible of human ingenuity and alien diversity. And the galaxy, vast and full of challenges as it was, suddenly seemed a little bit smaller, a little bit safer, and full of limitless possibilities. The ultimate challenge. The fourth day of training at the Galactic Peace Academy dawned with an air of anticipation. The alien cadets, now accustomed to expecting the unexpected, gathered in the main hangar bay. The cavernous space, usually filled with sleek spacecraft and maintenance drones, had been cleared out, leaving only a single ominous-looking device in the center. Admiral Chen stood beside the machine, her posture relaxed, but her eyes gleaming with that now familiar mix of challenge and mischief. As the cadets filed in, she activated a holographic display that filled the air above them with swirling galaxies and star systems. Cadets, Chen's voice echoed through the hangar. You've faced the fire. You've innovated under pressure. You've adapted to hostile environments. Now it's time for the ultimate test of a peacekeeper, navigating the complex tapestry of galactic politics and diplomacy. A murmur ran through the assembled aliens. This, many of them thought, was more familiar territory. After all, their species had been engaged in interstellar diplomacy for millennia. Surely, this was where they would shine. Chen's grin suggested she had anticipated this very reaction. But of course, we'll be doing this the human way. She gestured to the device behind her. It was a sleek, cylindrical machine covered in blinking lights and humming with barely contained energy. This, cadets, is what we call the Diplomatic Disaster Simulator, or DDS for short. It's capable of generating complex, multifaceted diplomatic scenarios drawn from actual galactic history, with a few unpredictable variables thrown in for good measure. Swordblacks wobbled nervously. "Admiral, when you say unpredictable variables, I mean exactly that, Cadet," Chen replied, her grin widening. "In real diplomatic situations, you never have all the information. There are always unknown factors, hidden agendas, unexpected developments. This simulator replicates that uncertainty." She tapped a few controls on the machine, and suddenly the hangar was transformed. Holographic projections sprang to life all around them, creating the illusion of a bustling spaceport. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved about, some familiar to the cadets, others completely unknown. "Welcome to Nexus Station," Chen announced, "the busiest diplomatic hub in the Andromeda Galaxy. Your mission is to prevent an impending war between the Silicon Confederation and the Photonic Alliance." The cadets exchanged glances. These were two of the most powerful factions in the known universe, and their conflict had been simmering for centuries. "You'll be divided into teams," Chen continued. "Each team will represent a different faction or interest group. You'll have access to all publicly available information about the conflict, but remember, in diplomacy, what isn't said is often more important than what is." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Oh, and one more thing. In about 3 hours, simulated time, a completely unexpected event will occur. How you react to this wild card will be crucial to your success or failure." With that, Chen stepped back, leaving the cadets to organize themselves. The hangar, now transformed into a hive of diplomatic activity, buzzed with nervous energy. Swordblacks, Click-Clack, and Gloop found themselves assigned to represent a neutral faction, tasked with mediating between the two warring parties. As they huddled together to strategize, they realized just how challenging this task would be. The Silicon Confederation claims the Photonic Alliance has been stealing their technology. Click-Clack clicked, her mandibles twitching as she processed the information. Gloop rippled thoughtfully. "But the Alliance insists they develop the technology independently. It's a classic case of parallel evolution versus espionage." Swordblacks extended a pseudopod to interact with the holographic data floating around them, and neither side seems willing to back down. Their entire cultural identities are wrapped up in this conflict. As the simulation progressed, the cadets found themselves deep in the quagmire of galactic politics. They navigated cultural misunderstandings, linguistic nuances, and centuries-old grudges. Every conversation was a delicate dance, every decision fraught with potential consequences. Just as they thought they were making progress, Chen's promised wild card event occurred. A massive energy surge ripped through the simulated station, temporarily disabling all technology. In the chaos that followed, accusations flew. The Silicon Confederation blamed the Photonic Alliance for the attack, while the Alliance pointed fingers at a third party they claimed the Confederation had hired. The cadets scrambled to adapt to this new development. Swordblacks, drawing on the lessons of human adaptability, suggested using the temporary technology blackout as an opportunity. "What if we get the leaders of both factions in a room together, with no technology, no advisors?" he proposed. "Force them to communicate directly, being to being." Click-Clack's antennae twitched in agreement. "Yes, and we could use Gloop's ability to change color and luminosity to facilitate non-verbal communication between the silicon and photonic beings." As the simulation reached its climax, the hangar was a flurry of activity. Cadets rushed back and forth, negotiating, mediating, and sometimes just trying to prevent outright brawls between holographic diplomats. In the end, war was averted, but only just. The Silicon Confederation and Photonic Alliance agreed to a tentative peace treaty, with provisions for shared technology development and cultural exchange programs. As the simulation faded away, returning the hangar to its normal state, the cadets stood in exhausted but triumphant clusters. They had been pushed to their limits, forced to think on their feet, and challenged to see beyond their own perspectives. Admiral Chen stepped forward, her face serious but her eyes shining with pride. Congratulations, cadets. You've just navigated one of the most complex diplomatic scenarios in galactic history. And you did it using very human methods: adaptability, creativity, and the willingness to take risks. She looked around at the assembled aliens, seeing not just individual beings, but the makings of a truly formidable peacekeeping force. This is what being a peacekeeper is all about. It's not just about preventing wars or negotiating treaties. It's about understanding, truly understanding, the myriad of perspectives that make up our galaxy. It's about finding common ground where none seems to exist. It's about being willing to try the unconventional when the conventional fails. Chen's voice softened slightly. You came here expecting to learn human combat techniques, human technology. But what you're really learning is the human spirit. Our drive to overcome, our ability to see possibilities where others see only problems, our stubborn refusal to accept failure. She gestured to the DDS machine. This simulator doesn't just create diplomatic scenarios. It creates opportunities. Opportunities to grow, to learn, to become more than you were, just like the real challenges you'll face out there in the galaxy. As the cadets filed out of the hangar, there was a new sense of purpose in their movements. They had faced simulated fire, adapted to hostile environments, and now navigated the treacherous waters of galactic diplomacy. With each challenge, they were becoming something more, not just peacekeepers, but pioneers of a new way of thinking. Deathworlders, click-clack, and Gloop lingered behind, discussing the simulation with animated gestures. You know, Swordblack said thoughtfully, at the beginning of this training, I thought humans were reckless, even a bit primitive. But now I see. Their approach, it's not about being fearless. It's about being brave enough to face the fear and act anyway. Click-clack clicked in agreement. Indeed. And their emphasis on adaptability, on finding unconventional solutions, it's not so different from the scientific method we Arctians revere. Observe, hypothesize, test, adapt. Gloop shimmered with excitement. We're not just learning to think like humans, we're learning to think beyond our own limitations, to see the galaxy not as it is, but as it could be. As they left the hangar, Admiral Chen overheard their conversation. She smiled to herself, a sense of satisfaction settling over her. The seeds planted in these first days would grow into something remarkable. She was sure of it. The galaxy was about to witness the rise of a new kind of peacekeeper, one that combined the best of human ingenuity with the vast diversity of alien perspectives. The ultimate challenge, it seemed, was just the beginning. A new understanding. The final day of the initial training program dawned on the Galactic Peace Academy. The air buzzed with a mixture of excitement, nervousness, and a newfound confidence that seemed to radiate from every alien cadet. As they gathered in the grand amphitheater, there was a palpable sense that something fundamental had shifted in their perspectives. Admiral Chen stood on the central platform, her posture relaxed but her eyes sharp as ever. Behind her, a massive holographic display flickered to life, showing scenes from the past few days of training. The live fire exercise, the impromptu inventions, the simulated alien world, and the complex diplomatic negotiations. Cadets. Chen's voice carried across the amphitheater, silencing the murmurs of conversation. You stand here today, not as the same beings who walked through those doors a few days ago. You've been challenged, pushed to your limits, and forced to think in ways you never imagined. But more importantly, you've grown. She gestured to the holographic scenes playing out behind her. You came here expecting to learn about human combat techniques, human technology, human diplomacy. But what you've really learned is something far more valuable: the human approach to the universe itself. His gelatinous form rippling with curiosity. Admiral, if I may, what exactly do you mean by the human approach? Chen's smile was warm and proud. An excellent question, Cadet Swordlax. The human approach, at its core, is about three things: adaptability, creativity, and an unwavering determination to overcome obstacles. She began to pace, her voice taking on a passionate tone. Humanity evolved on a planet that was constantly trying to kill us. We weren't the strongest, the fastest, or the most naturally gifted species. But we had something else: the ability to look at our environment and say, we can make this work for us. The holographic display shifted, showing scenes of human history. Early humans crafting tools, the rise of civilization, the Industrial Revolution, and finally, the leap into space. We took our weaknesses and turned them into strengths, Chen continued. We couldn't fly, so we built machines that could. We couldn't survive in the ocean depths, so we created vessels that allowed us to explore them. When we looked at the vast, empty space between stars, we didn't see an insurmountable barrier. We saw a challenge to overcome. Click-Clack's antennae twitched thoughtfully. But Admiral, surely other species have also adapted and evolved. What makes the human approach unique? Chen nodded, acknowledging the point. You're right, catted Click-Clack. All species adapt and evolve. But humans, we accelerate the process. We don't wait for evolution to catch up with our needs. We use our minds, our creativity, to shape our environment and ourselves. She gestured to the assembled cadets. Look around you. In just a few days, you've all demonstrated this same ability. You've adapted to challenges that should have been impossible. You've created solutions that none of us could have predicted. You've taken the essence of the human approach and made it your own. Gloop shimmered with excitement. So it's not about becoming human, but about adopting a human-like mindset. Exactly. Chen's eyes lit up. The galaxy doesn't need more humans. It needs beings who can think like humans when the situation calls for it, but who bring their own unique perspectives and abilities to the table. The holographic display changed again, showing a vast star map of the known galaxy. Countless worlds, space stations, and anomalies dotted the cosmic landscape. Out there, Chen's voice softened, filled with a sense of wonder, is a universe full of challenges we can't even imagine yet. Conflicts that will require not just diplomatic finesse, but the ability to think outside of conventional boundaries. Environmental hazards that will demand innovative solutions, mysteries that will push the very limits of our understanding. She looked at each cadet in turn, her gaze intense. And you, all of you, are now equipped to face these challenges. Not because you've learned to fight like humans or think exactly like humans, but because you've learned to approach problems with the same spirit of adaptability, creativity, and determination that has driven humanity to the stars. The amphitheater was silent, every alien cadet hanging on Chen's words. The magnitude of what they had learned, of how they had changed, was finally sinking in. But remember, Chen continued, her voice taking on a note of caution. With this approach comes great responsibility. The power to adapt, to innovate, to overcome. It can be used to build or to destroy. As peacekeepers, your job will be to use these skills to bring harmony to the galaxy, to bridge divides between species, and to find solutions where others see only conflict. She straightened, her bearing suddenly formal. Cadets, when you came here, you were already among the best and brightest your worlds had to offer. Now you stand here as something more. You are the first graduates of a new kind of training program, one that combines the strengths of all our species with the indomitable spirit that has driven humanity to the stars. Chen's voice rose, filling the amphitheater with a sense of purpose and pride. You are more than peacekeepers now. You are pioneers, innovators, problem solvers. You are the ones who will shape the future of our galaxy. Remember what you've learned here, not just the skills and techniques, but the mindset, the belief that no problem is unsolvable, no obstacle insurmountable. As Chen's speech concluded, the amphitheater erupted in a cacophony of alien cheers, whistles, and other expressions of approval. The cadets, once so diverse and separate, now stood united in a shared understanding and purpose. Toward Lax, Click-Clack, and Gloop found themselves at the center of a group hug that defied the laws of physics and biology. Species that would have been incompatible mere days ago now found ways to express their unity and excitement. As the celebration continued, Admiral Chen stepped back, watching with a mixture of pride and hope. She turned to find Torres standing beside her, a datapad in his hand. "Well, Admiral," Torres said, his voice filled with awe, "I think it's safe to say the experiment was a success. Early reports are already coming in from the simulator scenarios. These cadets are outperforming all previous peacekeeping units by a significant margin." Chen nodded, her eyes still on the celebrating aliens. "It's a good start, Torres. But the real test is yet to come. The galaxy is a big place, full of challenges we can't predict or prepare for." "Do you think they're ready?" Torres asked. Chen's smile was both proud and determined. "Ready? No, but they're prepared to become ready. They've learned the most important lesson of all, how to adapt, how to think beyond their limitations, how to face the unknown with courage and creativity." She turned to face her assistant, her eyes gleaming with the light of distant stars. "The galaxy is changing, Torres. New challenges, new conflicts, new discoveries are waiting just over the horizon. But for the first time, I truly believe we're creating a force that can meet those challenges head-on." As the newly graduated cadets filed out of the amphitheater, chattering excitedly about their future assignments and the adventures that awaited them, Chen watched them go with a sense of profound satisfaction. The Galactic Peace Academy had always been about maintaining order in the cosmos, but now it was about something more. It was about growth, about pushing boundaries, about seeing possibilities where others saw only problems. In teaching these alien cadets to think like humans, they had created something entirely new. A force of peacekeepers who combined the best aspects of every species with the indomitable spirit of humanity. As the sun set on the final day of training, casting long shadows across the academy grounds, Admiral Chen allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. The galaxy was vast, filled with wonders and dangers beyond imagination. But with these new peacekeepers, these pioneers of a new approach, the future looked brighter than ever. The human spirit, it seemed, was contagious, and it was spreading across the stars, one alien cadet at a time.